Hello, everybody. My name is Cesar Reyes, also pronounced Cesar Reyes, and this is LOC Unbound, Books Bring Us Together. Today, I have Amal Morsey. I'm going to read her bio really quickly as a short introduction. Amal Morsey is an Arabic cataloger in the Asian and Middle Eastern Division at the Library of Congress. Prior to joining the library, Amal was the library director at the Middle East Institute in DC, and her professional experience includes acquisitions, cataloging, and reference services at the Al-Azhar University and the Fairfax Public University. She holds a master's degree in library and information studies from the Catholic University of America in Washington, DC, and a BA in Library of Science and Archives from Cairo University, Egypt. Amal, thank you so much for being with me today. How are you doing?
I'm good. Thank you very much, Cesar, for including me in your interview today. I'm so excited to be part of the book festival this year.
Oh, thank you. I can't thank you enough for your willingness to participate. I'm excited to ask you these series of questions. And as you mentioned, the National Book Festival, the theme this year is Books Bring Us Together. I'm hoping, and along with my co-host Drew, who's also doing some other interviews, are hoping this series is going to allow us to shed light on individuals across the library and emphasize the power of storytelling, literature, and books, and how it forges connections between us all. And so in that vein, my first question for you is, can you tell me a time when a book or perhaps sharing a story brought you closer with somebody?
Almost every book I have read brought me closer to either someone or something. Dozens of books ran through my head when I wanted to answer this question. However, one that certainly caused me to be closer to myself, my own self. It helped me to sit back and rethink. Is a very small book, a very short book, but it really affected my life. This book was the title is Who Moved My Cheese by Spencer Jones. Are you familiar with the book?
I'm not, but I love the title.
The book is actually fascinating. Who Moves My Cheese is a fable about four characters, Curry and Sniff, versus him and Hole. This is just a fable story. They all live in a maze and they all love cheese. When the cheese disappears, Curry and Sniff enthusiastically head out trying to find the cheese somewhere else in the maze. On the other hand, him and Ho felt disappointed and angry, and they kept complaining. They wasted their time and energy hoping that all the cheese will return. Ho realized afterward that all the cheese will never return. So he tried to persuade his friend and he didn't. He couldn't persuade him, so he left to find his own cheese. Writing on the wall as he moved his learning experience for his friend, thinking that he might come to join him. Eventually, he discovered his new cheese and sees that Curry and Sniff were already found their own cheese and moved on. Cheese was a metaphor for what you wanted to have in life. It could be a good job, love, relation, money, health. The very core message of the book is thinking constantly that changing in life, we must adapt to the change in life. The quicker we adapt to change, the more satisfied we are and the more successful we'll be in our life. I think
Wow.
this book helped me find my own cheese. It helped me adapt with the change in my life.
Oh, that's so beautiful. And I really appreciate you sharing that with me and sharing that story. I'm definitely going to look for that book and take the time to read it, especially you telling me it's pretty short. I'm gonna
I
take
have
some
it.
time.
If you wanna get, I can lend it to you. I have it.
Oh, I appreciate that. Thank you for that. Yes. And I guess that kind of leads me into my next question. Speaking of, searching out for your own cheese, was being a librarian that cheese for you? Was working at the Library of Congress that cheese for you? What's the story behind being a librarian?
Oh my God! It was a very long story. Are you ready to learn to hear my story?
I would love to if you're willing to share.
I'm gonna try to make it shorter. As I as a young girl, I never thought I would be a librarian. However, I was an avid reader, which led me to study in the library science in the Cairo University in Egypt. That
Mm,
was very, very, very long time ago. I am
mm,
old.
no.
Uh, it didn't it didn't occur to me back then to realize that I was very lucky to choose this path
Mm,
and become a librarian at the most prestigious library in the world. In fact, it was a
mm,
came true afterward. A dream that I started in the very first lecture I attended when I was a freshman in college.
oh.
When I first learned about the Library of Congress,
Uh-huh.
I remember this day, and I think I wrote about it before in the our library magazine
Mm,
Gazette.
mhm, mhm, mhm.
I remember the first college, the very, very, very first lecture. I was very freshman in college, and the very first lecture was about the Library of Congress. And
Mhm.
our lecturer, I remember his name is Hagrassi, Saad al-Hagrassi. He was talking about the Library of Congress, how big is the library, how the library affected the entire library in the world, not only the entire library, it affected the knowledge in the entire world. I remember
Wow.
I dreamed in this lecture, I closed my eye and I dreamed to work in the largest, greatest library in the world.
Wow.
A few years later, I have a chance to come to United States,
Mm,
and my dream stayed with me. I tried to apply, and time passed, and I couldn't make my dream.
uh,
In the same time, I studied master in library science from Catholic University, and applied, and I couldn't get to the Library of Congress
uh,
until I become the director of the Middle East Institute Library. And then I got a phone call from Library of Congress,
yeah.
and I was shocked, and I kept asking the lady who asked me about it. Is this a position for what? Are you serious?
Yeah. Yeah.
And even so, I was like I was losing money. I was
Mm,
losing, of course, the naming of the position, but it was my dream, and I
yeah.
have to commit to my dream.
Yeah.
Uh, I remember the first day of when I went to Library of Congress. I brought back with me my diary. I'm writing my diary every day.
That's a
So
great
I
practice.
brought back my diary and I wrote in it, this is a check mark. I put a check mark on my dream after 14 years, 14 years
14
of
years. Wow.
applying in Library of Congress. I finally got it.
Wow. And you never gave up. And that whole
I
time you just
know.
kept going.
It was like a routine for me. Whenever a
Wow.
position I would just apply and apply and apply.
I mean, talk about perseverance. I mean, that's just phenomenal. And now you're there. Now you're doing the work at the Library of Congress.
And I'm so happy that I choose the right path.
That's amazing. I really appreciate you sharing that with me. And it makes me curious, you know, when people go to the Asia Middle Eastern Division for materials, what types of questions are they trying to answer? What is it that you most often see when people are visiting your section?
I work as a cataloger, so I work
Right.
behind the scene, away from the people who
most
come to ask questions and answer. But if you are asking about what type of question that people ask when they come to the Asian and Middle Eastern division, I can answer this question from the point of the patron view,
sure.
not as a librarian, because I think a reference librarian can answer these questions better than me, because reference librarian who's the people who sit in the front and work directly with the public. I was once a reference librarian in a public library, and I know that you could be faced with any question, from that's from the point of reference librarian in a public library, not in the Library of Congress. The public library, you could be faced with from the beginning of the where is the bathroom to what is the year of Kennedy died, for example. Any question you could
right.
ask any question. For the Library of Congress, the Asian and Middle Eastern division, you know that anyone in the world can use the LOC Ask a Librarian service in the world.
Really?
So you can imagine the Middle East, Asian and Middle East division has 3 divisions: African, Hebraic, and Near East section. These 3 sections cover 77 countries.
Wow.
Offer in-depth reference assistance for subject and language relating to these 77 countries. So you can imagine the reference librarian at LOC can receive vast number of questions in variety of language, not only English. It can be Arabic, it can be Turkish, it can be any language. Questions distributed according to the language and to of course, the subject. And they allow 1 day to answer the question.
So I'm assuming you see a lot of different materials at the Library of Congress, right? Cataloging and metadata and all this information that is available to patrons who come to the library. Why do you think it is that we as humans, as people, want to have or collect all this knowledge to share with one another?
I think sharing books is very important. Sharing knowledge itself, by itself, is very important, because we're not sharing just knowledge. We share experience. We share the communication between others. We avoid mistakes that people did before, so we won't get to this mistakes again. So that's why libraries in any country is very important. Library is in general, very important to all the public.
And it makes me think about, you talk about these connections that people make with one another, about, you know, trying to avoid mistakes perhaps, or experiences. I'm curious if there's a book that you've read recently that people may connect with you about. Is there a book that you've read lately that you're like, this is a book that means something to me?
A Room of My Own by Virginia Woolf.
Oh,
It's a combination of some essays that Virginia Woolf put together, and lectures she gave, and this book explore social injustice and comments on women's lack of freedom and lack of freedom of expression, freedom of expression. This particular books, in her, Virginia Woolf explains her most essential point. A woman must have money, a room of her own, in order for her to express herself, in order to write fiction. It was fascinating to me to learn that this book, published in 1929.
wow.
The same concepts that it goes until now. And I'm speaking about my experience, my own experience in Middle East. Until now in Middle East, maybe in the United States and Europe, women now is free and can express herself better than in Middle East. But in Middle East, still women needs more freedom to express her feeling, to express herself in writing.
Yeah. I haven't had the chance to read that book either, but I am so excited to actually take the time to do so. I know Virginia Woolf's name's very familiar to me and a lot of other people, and I'm sure her work is seminal to feminism and the literature as well. And it's important for today and beyond. So I can't thank you enough for sharing not only your stories, but also sharing the books that you've read that mean the world, if means something significant to you. And before this interview ends, I just have one last question for you. What does it mean to you when you hear books bring us together?
I think it is 100% true that the books brings us together. It brings us to knowledge. The more people read, the more they realize how similar they actually are. The more they are able to communicate with one another. Reading increases our capability for empathy and ability to understand others. When you read more about other countries, you know more about them. You will be able to communicate more to the people in this country. So it is true. Books brings us together.
Thank you, Amal. Thank you so much for your wisdom and your words. It has been wonderful to spend time with you. And I can't wait to see you hopefully at the National Book Festival.
Me too. I am so excited to be part of it. Thank you very much.
Thank you again.